Hey, welcome everyone to another Epidose. It is, of course, me, Justin, and my heterosexual life mate, Tom. And we are doing another short ribs video on the Meat Mosaic channel here. We do short ribs, which are we kind of pin down on a topic and really kind of dig in 10, 15 minutes long, provided I can shut my mouth. And then we have our longer episodes where I'm encouraged to not shut my mouth, which go for about an hour. Sometimes it's an interview. These are typically now done live at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we go over another topic, maybe a video, questions, take questions from the wonderful, intelligent audience that we have. But anyway, today, like I said, is a short ribs video. But before we get to that topic, please do us a favor and share, like, subscribe to this channel episode. Go ahead and slap a steak on there, fry some eggs on that like button. Make sure that bell icon is in the ringing notification so that you're notified whenever one of these videos drops. With that all taken care of, Tom, what is today's topic?
Does meat rot in your colon?
Does it?
Does it? Well, I think it's kind of hilarious because it seemed to me when I was a kid, the stories of calcified chuck roast migrated from one dead celebrity to another, right? It's like, hey, I heard they found Elvis on the toilet with a calcified chuck roast in his colon. And then it was, I think at one point it was John Wayne. John Wayne died with chuck roast rotting in his colon, So, that sort of fairy tale's been around as long as I can remember. I mean, I don't even really remember when John Wayne and Elvis Presley died. So that might have been before I was born.
Hey, isn't Elvis still alive? I mean, every few days or at least once a year, someone says, hey, they saw Elvis.
Yeah, well, when the news decided he had expired, which may or may not be true, but whenever that was, a long time ago.
He married his cousin. Was it him? I think it was him. He married his cousin.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask one of our parental units who probably don't remember.
Hey, one thing is, it probably wasn't chuck roast rotting in his colon because if memory serves, Elvis had put on a few pounds between, his fame and towards the end there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently he was on a lot of medication and stuff like that. So who knows? But yeah, I remember those kind of rumors. I remember having discussions with friends decades ago. It's like, oh man, did you know that meat rots in your colon? And I mean, how do you check that stuff out, especially before the internet, right? And of course, the internet's probably full of all kinds of vegan propaganda where, even a lot of the mainstream vegans don't promote this concept anymore, but a lot of the newer folk have come across that propaganda from times past and still believe it. I don't know that. I mean, how would you? It's so obscure. It's like one of those things you hear, it's like, how do you check that out? Because you Google it, you're gonna.
Well,
go
I mean,
strange rabbit.
Tom, me and you are pretty good friends. I think if I asked you to put on a rubber glove, I think you'd help me out. Maybe the next time.
Have you seen how big my hands are?
They pretty much just turned me into a sock puppet.
Yeah, you'd be a meat puppet for sure. We'd be doing this show an entirely different way.
Hey, maybe we'd make some more cash doing that kind of content.
Perhaps. Anyways, back to the subject before we get banned.
And I recently sent the link to this show to my boss. There we go. So brilliant. Hello.
Fortunately, my boss has no interest. So anyways, yeah, so we know now. I mean, I know Dr. Baker's talked about it, and I know Ken Berry's done video on it. And unfortunately, procedures like ileostomies, where they attach a bag to your intestines, and so you empty your digested contents into a bag rather than it passing all the way through you to your colon, is a fairly common procedure these days. So there's lots and lots of evidence that there's no meat. I mean, pretty much put that meat in your mouth and start chewing it, and the enzymes in your mouth start working on it. It goes in your stomach, and the stomach acid starts attacking it. Of course, assuming you aren't taking a bunch of medication to suppress your stomach acid, or drinking tons of alkaline water to dilute it, then that meat starts breaking down pretty quick. And then, so in one form or another, it makes it, some of it or most of it makes it, some ratio of it makes it to the small intestine, which is right below the stomach, right? And then it's absorbed, it's already breaking down into amino acids. So even a tough piece of gristle, for the most part, is breaking down into a molecular level, right? So
Well,
things like
hell, even
amino
a
acids.
chunk of bone.
Yeah, so real fine bone and stuff like that starts dissolving too. So yeah, our stomach acid is so, the healthy pH level of a human stomach is enough to dissolve metals. So it's much more acidic than most other animals, most other mammals in particular. So only scavengers like vultures and stuff like that have a similar pH as we do. So yeah, that meat breaks down very quickly, but we know there's all kinds of things that don't break down real quickly and wind up in your colon. You got any samples on the tip of your tongue there?
Corn, many nuts.
Yeah,
You know,
cellulose of
don't
all
know how.
kinds, right?
Right,
Yeah.
broccoli, celery. I mean, all pretty much most of your leafy fibrous vegetables. I mean, even when they talk about fiber being healthy, they say it's healthy because it's bulk. Like that's literally the term that's used. And it's like, bulk is not a word that you use for something that's easily digested, right? And so
Yeah,
it's
for a lot of people, fiber is more of an irritant than a digestive aid. So
right, but all the weight loss, well, not all, but like weight loss gurus will be like, oh, increase your fiber to lose weight because you'll feel full longer. And it's like, well, it's
yeah,
because it's shredding your insides and it's gumming up the works,
and you can't digest it. It's just got to pass through you.
right?
So yeah, that's more of a trick to eat fewer calories, which can help, with fat loss, body fat loss to some extent, but it's not necessarily a great strategy, right?
Well, yeah, because you're harming your health in a completely different way. You know, being large, although having its issues, Tom's larger than me, but Tom is healthy. And so there's a different, yeah, there is excess body fat and things like that, but there are worse things you can do to your body than having some extra fat percentage.
Yeah, and it's our, let's talk about it. I mean, we, when you go on a diet like the carnivore diet, you quickly notice that you rarely have any gas, and that's because there's nothing rotting in your colon. So, the vegans like to make that sound like, oh, you got to eat fermented food, and you got to have plant material fermenting in your colon to make fatty acids or whatever. But really, it's rotting. It's the same thing. And so when they want to speak of it favorably, they call it fermenting, or fermented food, fermenting in your colon, blah blah blah. But when they want to sound negative about something, then it's rotting. But it's really no different, right? I mean, that plant material is getting to your colon, starting to turn into methane and building up pressure, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just what is rotting, what is fermenting, the chemical structure of whatever it is breaking down basically. And so, yeah, that's all that's happening. And so when you ferment something, say even kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, things of that nature, a fermented vegetable, it's kind of like pre-digesting the food because you're changing the chemical structure, thus more or less making it somewhat less toxic. You're getting different bacteria possibly in it, which bacteria are very important in the breakdown process and elimination process of something that's rotting essentially. So yeah, it is wordplay. Beer is fermented, right? It's a chemical process. You heat, you add in the yeast, right, which is bacteria, to chemically break down the hops and process into beer. Right. And so
Yeast might technically be a fungus, but I
well,
get
yeah,
it.
yeah, single celled or very low celled organisms, right? Exactly. They eat, and then as they eat, they change the molecular structure of whatever it is. So yeah, and so I was more plant based, and I mean, I've talked about it several times. Um, it was, there was nothing form of a stool in the bowl. You know what I mean? It was just like explosive all day, every
Salad
day.
shooter.
Yeah, pretty much. Right. Exactly. And so, whereas carnivore people often have a complete opposite worry. Now, there is a bit of difference between starting carnivore and being in it for a while. Starting carnivore, yeah, you might have some you might want to have an extra pair of underwear that first couple of weeks, maybe,
Yeah, some
depending
people.
on where you're coming from.
Yeah, anytime you drastically change your diet, you could have, you know, different bowel movement, So yeah, be prepared. But for most people, it's not a big deal, right?
Right. And then later on, people get or the opposite worry. They're like, I haven't gone in like 5 days, but I feel okay.
That's kind of a long time.
A little bit, but I mean, I've seen it though, and I've seen the people be fine. It's not that there's
Yeah, let's
anything
talk
really.
about that because meat is almost completely absorbed. And when I say meat, I mean the muscle and the fat, right? So the enzymes break down the fat too. So you've got the bile from your liver or comes out of your gallbladder, right? And it's like a detergent that sort of emulsifies the fat, makes it more absorbable, right? And then lipase, right? And they're all breaking down the fat. And then the acid and the other enzymes are breaking down the protein in the muscle tissue into amino acids and stuff like that. And they're going right from your digestive tract into your bloodstream through the wall of the digestive tract. So there's not much left. So when you're used to eating a diet with all kinds of fiber and stuff like that that has to pass through you, you're used to having more waste. So, and a lot of carnivores tell you, yeah, a lot less waste passing through me, which is a good thing because that waste that passes through you is actually taking nutrients with it. So a lot of the nutrients you look at the spinach or whatever, and it says, oh, it's got all these nutrients, and it's got iron, vitamin C and stuff. Well, you're not absorbing a lot of that because it's actually locked up in the fiber. It's locked up with phytic acid and stuff like that. So it just passes through you, never gets absorbed into the bloodstream. So that's why the nutrient density of meat is so much higher, because it's not just more concentrated, but it's more bioavailable. So
Yeah, definitely. And so, sometimes people say, oh, you should definitely be going once a day. Maybe I'm still not really sold on an exact number of how often the person should go or not go exactly. I have quite the range myself, depending on.
yeah. And I think when we look it up, like they say the healthy range is something like from 3 times a day to once every 5 days. That's considered normal, right? As long as you're not uncomfortable, right? If you're not uncomfortable, you don't feel like you have to go, you're not in pain, then you're probably not actually constipated. You just haven't built up enough waste material yet.
Right, exactly. And so if you are switching your diet or you're new, it could be that your body legitimately needs every bit of the nutrients from the meat. And so that's why you're just not going currently. Easily manipulated though. So like if you're really concerned and you really just feel like I need to get flushed out or something, magnesium citrate will usually do it. Take a tablespoon of MCT oil, that'll do it. In some coffee or something like that. And also depends on how hydrated you are, what you drink. People typically, when they drink coffee, it usually makes them go. I don't know exactly why, but I've known many people that once they have their coffee, it's countdown, basically.
Yeah.
And another thing too, if that's your habit, right? If you go carnivore and you quit the coffee, and then it's probably going to take longer because the coffee's probably kind of thrown things off down there. And so there are many different factors here besides just the meat that could be contributing. Salt, the fat to protein ratio you're having. There's a lot of little things to play with depending on what the issue that you think you are having.
Yeah. Well, if you're used to artificially triggering a bowel movement chemically with coffee or something like that, and then you stop, of course there's going to be a change, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, and let's get back to some more evidence. We didn't talk about ileostomies, colostomies, and all that, did we?
You mentioned ileostomies. Yes.
Oh, okay. So let me just say that.
Remember, I asked you to get a rubber glove.
All right. So yeah, so people have the ileostomy. It's above the colon. It's above the large intestine. So as opposed to a colostomy, which is down near the colon. And there are different places where they attach them, but people who've had them and people who take care of people who have them will tell you that they see the vegetable matter in there. They don't see the meat in there. There's no bacon floating around in there. So yeah, so there's some, firsthand visual evidence that, and of course we know just from anatomy how fast meat breaks down with all the research and experiments have been done in the past. So I think we can safely put this rumor about meat rotting in your colon to bed forever.
It's fermenting.
It's not fermenting. Never makes it to your colon. All right. Well, let's really put this one to bed and move on to another one, Justin.
Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think your colon's up to. Have you noticed any bowel movement frequency increase, decrease since going keto-y, carnivore-y, vegan-y, whatever you're doing?
Yeah, maybe you have some insight on where this rumor started with the meat rotting in your colon. Maybe you've done the history, probed the deep, deep, dark past to find out where this idea came from.
Maybe you saw Elvis last week. Comment that too if you saw Elvis. Be great to know. Also, any other cryptoid will also be fine. So like Sasquatch, Loch Ness, whatever. Ooh, Loch Ness meat. There we go. That would be some interesting.
Looking forward to it.
There you go. So anyway, feel better. Hit that like button. Hit that bell notification. Subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And whatever you do, don't fall down the colon hole.